So I was waiting on the Wilson Stop platform northbound on the Red Line, about 11:47 on a Tuesday. The platform empty, except for me and one other person far down at the south end. Then the other person started walking, the full length of the platform, toward me. He covered the distance without looking at his phone, without a bag, without any reason to be moving from one end of the platform to the other. He stopped 15 feet from me. He stood facing the tracks. He didn't look at me. I'm Ezra, 34, freelance graphic designer in Chicago. I'd been a daily Red Line rider for 9 years. The subway tunnels south of Lake, the elevated tracks north of Belmont. I knew every grade of every platform on the line. Lived in Uptown, 3 blocks from the Wilson Stop, half a mile from Wrigley when the Cubs were home. I was coming back that night from a print shop pickup in the Loop, a deck I needed for a client meeting the next morning, one the printer had finished late. Grabbed a Dunkin' Iced on the walk over to Jackson, because honestly, the printer screw-up was the 3rd one that month. I should explain the next observation precisely, because Chicago platforms have a culture of people pacing while they wait. Some people pace because they're cold. Some pace because they're checking the tracks for the train. Some pace because they're tired and it's late and they're losing patience. This was not pacing. He had walked the entire platform, about 300 feet, from the south end to where I was standing in the middle of the platform near the stairwell alcove. He had walked it slowly and deliberately. He had stopped at the exact distance you would stop if you wanted to be near someone but not be looking at them. He was tracking the train direction, not me, but he was within hearing distance. I stepped backward into the alcove near the stairwell. The alcove sits below the ticket booth above. The ticket agent up there had a window that looks down at the platform through a polished plexiglass panel. I knew this because 9 years of riding the Red Line had taught me which spots are visible. From the agent's window, the alcove is visible. I stepped into it like I was waiting out of the wind. The other person turned and walked back to the south end of the platform. He stopped. He turned. He walked back toward me. He did this twice. Each pass covered the entire length of the platform. He was not waiting for a train. He was checking that I was still in the alcove. Train approached. I could hear it from a long way off. Red Line trains pull into Wilson on the elevated platform, and you can feel them on the rails before you see them. I timed my approach to the boarding line. He stayed at the south end. I boarded the 3rd car from the front. He boarded the 2nd car, 2 cars apart. At Lawrence, the next stop north, I did something I had never done before in 9 years of riding. I exited the car at Lawrence as the doors opened, walked 2 cars forward along the platform, and reboarded the lead car. The lead car had 3 other passengers. He exited the 2nd car at Lawrence too. He saw me reboard the lead car. He walked along the platform and boarded the lead car from the same end I had just used. The lead car had a woman in her 50s on her phone, 2 college kids with backpacks, and a man with a janitor's uniform reading a magazine. I sat next to the woman. She glanced up, registered me, glanced back at her phone. I held my own phone visibly. He sat at the far end of the car. He stared straight ahead. The train continued north. He did not get up. I did not get up. I'll try to describe those stops without dressing them up, because the impulse, when you write it later, is to make yourself sound calm. The thing is, I was not calm. I was running a list of options in my head about what I would do at each upcoming station. Howard was 8 stops away. If he attempted to follow me at any earlier stop, I would stay on the train. If he stayed on the train past Howard, I would get off at Howard and let him continue without me. If he tried to corner me on the way out at Howard, the staffed mezzanine had CTA personnel at all hours and a uniformed transit police presence on weekends. I went through the contingency tree 4 full times during the 11-minute ride. He did not move once. We rode together until the Howard end-of-line station, the busiest transfer station on the north side of Red Line, with significantly higher staff presence at all hours. I exited at Howard. He exited at Howard. The platform at Howard had 2 CTA workers and 3 other passengers. I walked directly to the exit turnstiles. He walked toward the bus connection bay. I took a lift home, the first lift I had taken in 3 months. The next morning, I went to a CTA customer service window in the Loop, filed a tip report. with the platform camera screenshot I had taken while in the alcove using my phone in low light mode. CTA's transit safety team got back to me 2 days later with a follow-up call. They had pulled archive from 4 consecutive Red Line stations along my route that night, plus 5 other Red Line platform camera windows from prior weeks. The same man was on platform cameras at Belmont, Addison, Sheridan, and Wilson on at least 9 different evenings in the prior 6 weeks. He was sometimes north of Wilson, sometimes south. He never boarded a train at those stations. He paced. CTA's bulletin team confirmed his pattern matched an Open Transit Authority pattern alert that quarter. The alert had described a specific kind of platform observer who used pacing to evaluate target isolation. They could not tell me whether he had ever caused harm to anyone. They could not tell me whether they had a name for him. They told me there was an active investigation. They modified platform lighting on Red Line North Side stations the following month. The CTA bulletin officer who walked me through the archive pool told me one more thing. I did not want it and have not forgotten. The same platform camera dataset showed that the man had also been observed at 3 other Red Line stations on the South Side branches during a stretch of weeks in March and April. Different routes from his Wilson presence. Different times of evening. The transit safety team's pattern analysis people had marked the Wilson visits and the South Side visits, and an additional set of platform observations at the Roosevelt Loop Station, potentially the same individual, based on body geometry and walking gait, but they had not been able to ID him by face on a single one of those captures. He had been on the system for at least 11 weeks before my Tuesday night encounter. The officer asked me not to share the Southside detail with media, which I have not, and have not until now. I ride only during commute hours, or with a friend now. I carry a small Sabre canister in my jacket. I use Lyft shared rides after 10 p.m. exclusively. I have the CTA passenger app's live alert notifications on. What I haven't shaken is the alcove. I had stepped into it without thinking. 9 years of riding had taught me which spot on that platform was visible from the agent's booth, and my body had walked me into it before I had decided to. The other person had not been ready for someone who knew the geometry of the station. He had walked away from me each time, and walked back each time, because he had been waiting for me to step out of the alcove. I had not stepped out. I do not know how long he would have waited.
I'd been pulling 12-hour ER shifts at GW Hospital all that week, was finally heading home on the Yellow Line southbound out of L'Enfant Plaza, around 10:55 on a Friday night. That was when a man entered my car from the connecting door between cars and sat diagonally across from me. He stared at me throughout the entire ride. When I moved cars at Pentagon City, he found me again at Crystal City, entering my new car at the next stop without speaking, without pretending. The DC Metro Transit Police arrested him 6 days later. He had been at my apartment building lobby earlier that week. I'm Nikki, 28, ER nurse at GW Hospital. I'd been on the Yellow Line for about 3 years, living in Crystal City and commuting north. 12-hour shifts mean late departures and late returns. That Friday, I'd had 2 code blues back-to-back in the trauma bay. My last running past midnight, my Dunkin' iced from that morning still sitting in my locker, because I hadn't even had time to grab it before the second code came in. I mean, you know the routine. Late Friday metro crowd by sight, which cars are usually empty and which are usually fuller, and which platforms have the most lobby presence after 10. This is something you learn riding alone at night. The man who entered my car came through the connecting door, which is the door that opens between cars when the train is in motion. People use those doors occasionally for legitimate reasons. Mostly they're used by people who got on the train at the wrong end and need to reach a different car for a connection. People do not usually walk from one car to another to sit diagonally across from a single passenger who is otherwise alone in the car. He did this. He sat at the diagonal seat, the seat that has a clear sightline to my face without being directly across. He stared, not glancing, sustained. I gave him the standard ignore I give every weird commuter. Head down, phone visible, no eye contact, breathing normal. I waited. At Pentagon City, I got up, walked through the connecting door at my end of the car and into the next car forward. 2 stops later, at Reagan National Airport, he was in my new car. He had moved through the connecting doors too. He was now seated diagonally across from me again. Same posture, same stare. What I did next came from training, not calm, because nurses are trained for situations where you do not let an aggressive party see you panicking. I sat through the rest of the ride. I did not look at him. I made a list in my head of options when I would have to exit at Crystal City. It was my home stop. I could not skip it. The line ended at Huntington, and I would have to come back regardless. At Crystal City, I stood up before the doors opened. I positioned myself facing the door at a diagonal so I could see the platform when the door slid back. I exited fast. He exited behind me, 3 steps back. Up the long escalator at Crystal City, he stayed 3 steps behind me at the same pace. I did not walk toward my apartment. I walked the opposite direction, toward the 24-hour CVS 2 blocks away from my building. He followed me to the CVS entrance. He saw me go in. He stopped on the sidewalk outside the CVS, looked through the window for about 8 seconds, then walked away in the direction of my apartment building. I went to the pharmacy counter, the back wall of the CVS, the area furthest from any door. Honestly, the ER training kicks in for things like this. You're trained to triangulate exits, count witnesses, find the densest area of camera coverage in a hospital lobby during a violent patient escalation. The CVS pharmacy counter had 2 visible cameras. I called Metro Transit Police from my cell. I gave my location and described what had just happened. The dispatcher said a cruiser was 9 minutes out. I bought a bottle of water and a magazine. I had no intention of reading. I waited near the pharmacy aisle, which has a security camera that the pharmacist confirmed was running. A Metro Transit officer arrived at the CVS in 9 minutes, took my statement, requested Metro to retroactively pull station cameras from L'Enfant Plaza, Pentagon City, Reagan, and Crystal City. They did. Within 48 hours, the suspect was identified from his face on the L'Enfant Plaza boarding camera. His name came back via DMV match to an address in the Brentwood neighborhood of D.C. He had moved to D.C. 4 years earlier from Baltimore. He had a prior conviction in Maryland for a similar pattern on the Baltimore light rail, following a woman from a station to her apartment building, charged with stalking and harassment, pleaded to 9 months. 6 days after my Metro call, he was arrested at his Brentwood address. Police pulled my apartment building's lobby camera footage from the week leading up to the Friday. He had been in my lobby twice, Wednesday at 7:42 p.m. and Thursday at 6:18 p.m. He had not been buzzed up. He had used the building's coffee shop entrance, which connects to the lobby, and had sat in the lobby seating area both times for between 11 and 24 minutes. He was charged with stalking, criminal trespass at my apartment building based on the lobby visits, and violation of DC Metro safety bylaws. He pleaded 18 months in DC Department of Corrections, plus 5 years supervised release, plus a region-wide transit ban, DC Metro, MARC, VRE, Baltimore Light Rail, Metro buses, plus GPS monitoring on release. During discovery, the prosecutor's office disclosed his phone records. He had a personal photo gallery on his cell that included 2 photographs of the outside of my apartment building, taken from the sidewalk angle, both within the prior 2 weeks. He had a list in his notes app, 26 names with what appeared to be transit line shorthand next to several of them, YL, RL, ML for yellow, red, Maryland, MARC. 3 of the names had transit line plus address fragments. Mine was one of the 3. The prosecutor said the Maryland Department of Public Safety had begun cross-referencing the other names. I have not been told whether any of those women have been contacted. The DA's office told me they would notify if any of the names connected to another open case. I bought a car within the month, a used Subaru, the first car I'd owned since GW residency. I work only day shift now. I joined a self-defense class taught by a retired Metro Transit officer, one who'd worked the Yellow Line corridor for 15 years. I carry pepper spray and a tactical pen. I do not enter my apartment building without doing a parking lot scan first, the way I used to clear a trauma bay before a code. What I see when I close my eyes is the apartment lobby footage. He had been at my building twice, in the lobby seating, Before the Friday, I noticed him on the train. The detective sat with me through the lobby camera review. He pointed out one of the visits, the Wednesday. The camera had also caught me arriving home from a different shift, walking past the lobby seating area he had been sitting in, not looking at him because I had been tired and had walked straight to the elevators. He had watched me cross the lobby. I had not seen him at all.
Friday night, 11:40. The L Frankfurt bound, the car mostly empty, except for me and 3 other passengers. 5 young men boarded at the Spring Garden stop and immediately split into 2 groups. 2 of them sitting near the front exit, 3 of them near the back. They had blocked both exits in a way that looked casual. I had read about this exact pattern 3 months earlier. In a SEPTA safety bulletin email my firm had circulated. I'm Theo, 41, IT consultant. Lived in Fishtown for 6 years. I rode SEPTA most weekday commutes and many late evenings. I grabbed a Wawa coffee at Suburban Station before catching the Frankfurt-bound habit from my old commute. The late ride home was easier with caffeine in hand. I was on the L that night coming back from a client dinner in University City, Frankfurt-bound, which is the eastbound direction on the Market-Frankfurt line. I was 4 stops from my home stop at Berks. I had a backpack with my laptop, headphones, sunglasses, and a Moleskine notebook with client interview notes. Honestly, the backpack was a Toomey I'd bought after a Stripe consulting gig closed, overpriced for what it was, but the strap geometry mattered later. The bulletin email had been from SEPTA Transit Police via the firm's facilities office. It described a coordinated robbery pattern that had been emerging on late-night MFL trains. The pattern was this. A group of 3 to 5 young people boards a near-empty car, splits into 2 clusters that effectively block both exits. 1 or 2 members distract by asking other passengers for the time or for transit directions. 1 member takes the seat next to the chosen target, and during the distraction, the seat neighbor attempts a snatch of the target's bag or phone. The email had specifically described the exit blocking geometry. Not aggressive, not announced. Just 2 people standing or sitting close to each exit, such that a target would need to physically push past them to leave the car. The 5 young men who boarded my car at Spring Garden matched the geometry. 2 at the front, 3 at the back. None of them appeared to know each other. None of them appeared to look at each other. They sat with the casual posture of people who happened to share a car. They split exactly the right way. I checked my phone. I opened the SEPTA app, which I had installed 3 months earlier after reading the bulletin email. I activated the Transit Emergency Alert home screen widget. The widget is a panic feature that sends your live GPS location, plus a voice recording stream, to SEPTA Transit Police's tablet system. I tucked my phone between my thigh and the wall of the seat so that the microphone was unobstructed, but the screen was not visible. The kid who was sitting 2 rows back stood up. He walked over to a passenger 3 rows ahead of me, a young woman with earbuds in, and asked her, very politely, what time it was. She pulled out an earbud, glanced at her phone, told him. He thanked her. He stayed there to ask her if she knew which stop was the closest to the Reading Terminal Market. She answered. He kept her talking. While that was going on, another one of them, taller, maybe 19, hood up, moved to the seat next to me. He half leaned into my left shoulder. He did not say anything. He looked straight ahead. His right hand was inside his jacket pocket. The kid asking for the time kept up the conversation with the woman 3 rows up. The other 3 were still in their positions at the back of the car, watching the rear platform door. The hand from the seat next to me came out of the jacket and reached for the strap of my backpack, which was on the floor between my feet. I felt the pull on the strap. I braced. I did not release the bag. I lowered my upper body weight onto the strap so my elbow held it pinned. He pulled harder. The strap snapped sideways but did not detach. The kid with the time-asking conversation looked back over his shoulder toward me. The other 3 at the back started standing up. The train slowed. Berks Station, my home stop, was approaching. I had no way of knowing whether SEPTA Transit Police had received my alert in time. The doors opened. 2 SEPTA transit officers boarded from the front platform door. 2 more from the back. The alert had pinged their tablet 9 minutes earlier, when I had first triggered it at Spring Garden. They had been 2 stops back, moving with the train. They had boarded at Berks. The 5 young men saw the uniforms and scattered toward the front of the car, toward the front platform door. But the front officers were holding the door open and blocking it. The 3 who had been at the back were detained on the Berks platform. The 2 at the front made it past the doors and ran down the platform. 1 was caught at the station's mezzanine. 1 escaped through a service corridor near the north exit. He was identified later via car camera footage and a SEPTA stop jumper alert that flagged him at a different station that same night. All 5 charged within a month. 3 adults pleaded to 3 to 7 years state for felony aggravated robbery, simple assault, criminal conspiracy. 2 juveniles got 6 months in detention, plus restitution to me and to a different MFL target. 1 who had also reported a similar incident 2 weeks before mine. The voice recording from my phone, the one going to the SEPTA tablet, was entered as audio evidence at trial. The recording captured the time-asking conversation, the geometric clustering, the snatch attempt, my brace, the strap snap. During the trial, the prosecutor entered 6 pieces of audio evidence from the SEPTA app's voice recording stream. The recording captured my breathing pattern slowing as I activated the panic mode, a detail one of the defense attorneys tried to use to argue I had been preparing for a confrontation rather than reacting to one. The prosecutor read aloud the timestamps. The bulletin email I had received 3 months earlier had also been entered as evidence. The firm's facilities office had to subpoena it from SEPTA's distribution system to confirm exact wording. The pattern clustering geometric language in the bulletin email exactly matched what the 5 men had executed on the train. The jury foreman, when interviewed afterwards, said the matched language between the bulletin and the testimony was what had moved them to felony, aggravated robbery, rather than down charge. I had a bone bruise on my right forearm where I had held the strap pinned. 4 months of physical therapy. The moleskine and other items were recovered as evidence and returned after trial. I have a SEPTA Premium membership now with the live agent line. I switched to Lyft after 10 p.m. permanently. No more late MFL rides. What I'm grateful for is the bulletin email from 3 months earlier. I had read it twice when it came in. I had remembered the geometric pattern. I had recognized the exact same pattern as it was happening to me. 3 months. That email had sat in my inbox for 3 months and was the only thing standing between me and a forearm bone bruise that became a felony aggravated robbery trial. I do not know how I would have known otherwise. The email from SEPTA had been one of those emails that you usually skim and delete. I had not deleted it. I had instead installed the app. The app's alert had reached the transit police 9 minutes before I needed them.
Looking back, 11:15 on the inbound Embarcadero platform was supposed to be the easy part. I'd worked late at the firm dozens of times before that Thursday, and the inbound side was always better lit and more populated than walking to a lift. 12 other people were scattered along the platform's length. A man walked up from the SF ferry building end, stopped 8 feet from me, and said, "You're alone." I picked up my bag and walked away from him toward the elevators. He followed. At the elevators, he grabbed my left arm and said, "You're mine now." He had a knife. I'm Jasmin, 32, attorney in San Francisco. Corporate litigation, depositions in SOMA most weeks. Lived in Oakland for 5 years and commuted via BART daily. The firm event that ended at 10:30 was a partner retirement dinner. The associates had been talking about hitting In and Out on the way home, and honestly, I'd almost gone with them, but I had a deposition the next morning. I walked to Embarcadero rather than taking a lift, because the platform on the inbound side at Embarcadero is one of the better lit, more populated late-night BART platforms. Typically. That was the whole rationale. That Thursday, it was thinner than usual. 12 people scattered along a 300-foot platform meant most of them were at minimum 25 to 30 feet from any other person. I was standing about a third of the way down the platform from the SF ferry building end. There was a bench against the wall behind me and an elevator bank 30 feet further down, near where 2 men and a woman were standing. They had bags and were waiting for the inbound train. The man who walked up from the ferry building end took the full length of his approach in plain sight. Mid-40s, gray jacket, no bag, hands at his sides as he walked. He stopped 8 feet from me, facing me. He said, "You're alone." I did not respond. I picked my bag up off the bench, slung it over my right shoulder, and walked away from him toward the elevators at the far end of the platform. The elevators were where the 3 other passengers were waiting. The cameras in that section of platform were also closer and more visible. I knew this because BART platform cameras have small red status lights, and I had clocked the cluster of 3 near the elevator bank when I had walked onto the platform. He followed me. He picked up speed. He called from behind me, "Don't run from me." His voice was conversational. I did not run. I walked faster. I reached the elevator bank. I pressed the call button. The 2 men and the woman who were standing near the elevators were within 10 to 15 feet of me. They were on their phones. One of the men looked up when he heard the man behind me speak. The man caught up with me. He grabbed my left arm above the elbow with his right hand. He said, "You're mine now." He started pulling me sideways laterally toward the connecting walkway that runs between the 2 sides of the Embarcadero platforms. The walkway is narrow. It connects through a tile-floored gallery that has lower visibility and fewer cameras. I braced my right foot against the base of the elevator button kiosk. I yelled the word "help" 3 times in quick succession at a volume that I had not produced before. The 2 men and the woman who were waiting for the inbound train turned and came over fast. The man with my arm pulled a folding knife out from his belt with his left hand. He drew it across my left cheek, not a stab, more a slash, and the blade went deep. I felt the warm cut. I did not let go of the kiosk base. The first Samaritan tackled him from the side. The second Samaritan grabbed the knife arm. The man went down. The woman Samaritan called 911. The first Samaritan kept his weight on the suspect. The second one pulled a handkerchief out of his back pocket and pressed it to my cheek and asked me very calmly whether I was okay. I told him I was. I was not. BART police arrived in 4 minutes. The police had been already in the station. 1 officer at the ground-level mezzanine, 2 at the platform on the outbound side. They came up the elevator and through the connecting walkway. Suspect detained at scene with the knife on him. He was bagged. The platform cameras for that section of the platform, it turned out, had been malfunctioning for 11 days prior. BART had an open maintenance ticket on the camera. The ticket had not been deployed. The cameras did not capture the assault. The Samaritan cell phone footage did. Suspect's record: 18 prior arrests across BART and Muni, 4 of them transit assaults, 3 of those involving knives. He had been charged at trial with felony assault with great bodily injury, attempted kidnap, criminal threats, and criminal possession of a knife in a transit station. He was convicted by a jury 11 months later, 9 years state prison, 4 years supervised release. Lifetime transit ban from BART, Muni, AC Transit, SF Bay Ferry, and Caltrain. My facial laceration required 11 stitches plus a minor skin graft surgery 6 months later. There is a permanent 2-inch scar on my left cheek. I did 14 months of weekly therapy plus 4 months of EMDR. I moved out of my BART-dependent Oakland neighborhood to one that was Lyft walkable at a significant rent premium. The lawsuit my legal team brought against BART for failure to monitor, based on the 11-day open camera ticket and the lack of platform-level officer staffing, settled at $185,000 without going to trial. During discovery, the prosecutor's office disclosed something I had asked about and had been told they could share. The suspect had used the phrase, "You're mine now," in 2 prior assault cases, once on a Muni light rail in 2021 and once on the inbound BART platform at 12th Street, Oakland in 2023. Both prior victims had not heard the phrase clearly in the moment because of platform noise. Both prior victims had read the same phrase in their own court records years later. Both prior victims had testified at my trial. The prosecutor told me, after sentencing, that the 3 of us had been the only women who had survived encounters in which he had used that phrase. There had been 4 other women he had taken bag or jewelry from on platforms without escalating to the phrase, all of whom had also testified in the felony assault enhancement portion of the trial. The judge had read all 7 statements into the record at sentencing. I had been on that platform thinking it was the safer option compared to walking to a lift. The platform had been thinner than usual that night. The man had picked me not because I was alone. There were 12 other people, but because I was the farthest from another person at the moment he arrived. The 3 Samaritans who tackled him had been within 15 feet of me at the elevators. The Samaritans had been the reason I had walked toward the elevators. I had walked toward them, toward the elevator bank with its dense camera coverage and its 3 waiting passengers, without realizing I was doing it. I had read the spatial geometry of the platform, and my body had moved me toward the safest spot. Before the man had finished closing the distance, the Samaritans had finished what my walking had started. The 3 of them sent me handwritten cards about a month after the trial. I keep them in the desk drawer at my apartment. I have written back to each of them once a year since.